Hey guys, today I want to talk to you all about the drama that's been surrounding Lost Ark in the past week or so, primarily centered around Argos and the honing rate changes or lack thereof. So you guys have probably seen on my channel, there's probably been a couple of videos talking about this, maybe a reaction video you've seen, but I've had a lot of people thinking that I think different things about this, so I'd like to actually sit down and give my real uncut, uncensored, unedited opinion about this and talk about what has happened, what I'm worried is going to happen, and what I hope Amazon and or Smilegate does to prevent this from happening. Basically, for anybody who doesn't really understand what the problem is, their third tier of gear, it's like 1300. 1300 at the beginning is very easy to upgrade, and then you get to about 1340 to 1350 or so, and like the chances of having a successful upgrade for your piece of gear go down drastically. And every single time that you do a chance at it, you roll the dice, you use a exorbitant amount of resources and materials. So you're seeing people that feel like they are compelled to spend a lot of money in order to continue upgrading their character. Now, this has always been the case in the game because it is fundamentally a pay-to-win game to an extent if you consider gear score winning, which I personally do. But the reason why it's been so much of an issue and there's been so much of a focus put on it recently is that a raid came out, Argos, and Argos requires you to have 1370 item level in order to receive the items from him and in order to even queue up to fight the boss. So basically, if you don't have 1370, you can't do the boss. And you have the people that are at 1370 that then after 1370, for some reason, it gets easier to upgrade your gear again, or like the chances are higher for succeeding because you're using different resources. So it's kind of like you hit this break point and then it's like a rich get richer situation. So not only are you able to upgrade your gear more easily, but on top of that, now you're also able to just make a lot more money because you're able to access these materials and these items that make your character even more powerful and give you an even larger power advantage over other players comparatively whenever you're looking for groups or things like that. And of course, like matchmaking and party finder, you know, the interplay with that, with the different people, and you know, they'll inspect somebody, they'll see if somebody has like X or Y engravings or gear or whatever. And the fact is that if you have access to Argos, you have access to more pieces of gear, and if you have access to a credit card, right, you could also have access to more pieces of gear too. So these things do affect every player, because if you're queuing up into a party finder at all and you have, you know, a random guy who's looking for a fourth person for their party, are they going to pick you, the guy who's like, you know, just barely 1340, or are they going to pick the 1385 whale that has 4 engravings at level 3 and all of their gear is legendary? They're always going to pick the other guy over you at a glance because there's no other frame of reference that they can do to judge you whether you're good or not. So I think this has been something that's become a really big issue, because Lost Ark, I think that this is something that I had heard many times. I had not played the game myself prior to the NA release, but I had heard many times from many people that the game had respected your time much more than a lot of other pay-to-win games that came from Korea, which is something that they have a really bad reputation for. So I think that there's a lot of people who made those videos, and people like me who thought those videos were true are thinking, well, wait a minute, we have to overcome this insurmountable thing because you have to get the 1370 to do this boss. But if we spend that much money, it's like you feel like you kind of have to, right? And you have a lot of people that are 1360 and they're pretty much free to play, and they get compelled to, you know, spend money to push themselves a little bit more. And I'm sure that there might be a handful of people that reach 1385 without spending any money on the game in order to buy like resources or anything. I think that's possible, but just because it's possible does not necessarily mean that it's reasonable. And so those people have, you know, massive amounts of time, like 12 hours, probably 10 hours a day they're playing a game. On top of that, they have like massive game knowledge. So these are the best of the best of the best, trying as hard as they possibly can. So for a realistic person, it's just a much more realistic thing to do is to spend money, right? And I think that's really created a bad taste in the player base's mouth, because they have heard all of these positive things about Lost Ark, how it doesn't like kind of force you into paying money, how it doesn't make you feel like you're one of the have-nots if you don't have a certain item level or whatever. And now the game comes out in North America and we have this distinct class difference. we have this massive class difference between players who are able to either play 12 hours a day and get lucky and understand the game enough to get 1370, and also players that are able to spend a lot of money. For me, I'm not really in either one of those groups. A lot of people in my stream helped me out with materials, etc. But there's really no difference between me and a pay-to-win player, to be honest. I'm not really affected by this as much, but I can see this as being very harmful to the game. And this is an issue that New World ran into as well, which was produced by Amazon Games, is that New World, it released and it had so many glaring problems that took so long to solve that the player base's opinion of the game is already set in stone. People have already decided how they feel about the game, and that's it. It's kind of like what happened with No Man's Sky. How long did it take for them to rebuild the reputation, etc.? And the reason why this concerns me is that I really like Lost Ark as a game. That's why I play it a lot, and I've done a lot of the side activities, whether it's collecting Mokoko seeds or completing my adventure journal or just going around to the islands, getting the island souls, etc. Like, this is just something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy the combat, etc. And I don't want to see a game that has so much potential be squandered because of mismanagement. And I don't really know where this mismanagement is coming from. Is this Smilegate? Is this Amazon? In my opinion, I don't think it's either one. I think it's both of them. I think that probably just collectively it was a bad decision that was made. And I think that Amazon and or Smilegate should come out as soon as possible. So like, there's 3 issues that the game has, right? Issue number 1 is that Argos came out so early that a lot of players aren't 1370 and they feel like they have to spend money in order to get there. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is the fact that there are a lot of other catch-up mechanisms and daily mechanisms that players have in Korea and in Russia that are not available in North America. So for the first month, we didn't have the events. There's also the, I think, Heroic Guardian raids. There's also item level locked Abyss raids. So you go back and you do the old Abyss raids, but you're locked to a certain item level. And then there's also there's something called the Bridge too, which I'm not really sure exactly what that is, but it apparently releases with South Vern, which is in a higher item level area that will probably come into the next content patch. So not only are players playing with, oh yeah, the honing rates. That's the 3rd issue. I forgot to mention that. So the honing rates in Korea for these different item levels are much higher. So basically, North American players are playing with less resources because they have less available avenues to get those resources from. No Bridge, no Heroic Guardians, no Heroic Abyss raids. You don't have those. So not only do you have less materials, but your materials statistically upgrade less. So it's like you're getting fucked in 2 different ways. And I think that's probably the biggest issue that the game has, is that the American player, the Western player's experience is fundamentally different than what a Korean player's experience is in the game. It's almost like they've designed it in a way to make people hate the game. It's just that's the way it feels like to me. And I think there's a lot of people that are just tired of it. They're pissed off, they're frustrated, and they don't want to play the game anymore. There's already been people telling me that they quit playing the game, they uninstalled it, etc. And I think that the reason why that happens is that whenever you take, that 2 combinations, right? Like less avenues to get resources and your resources buy less, right? You're in like a Great Depression simulator, and a lot of people don't want to play that. Like, why would somebody want to do that? And I've talked to a lot of other content creators who have played Lost Ark on the Russian and Korean servers over the past week or so, and almost all of them are confused by these changes just as much as I am. I mean, so I think that really this is something that Amazon and Smilegate need to solve like tomorrow, because every single day that this is in the game, it creates a bad taste in people's mouths, because they see people that have a massive difference in power to them, which unlocks certain content that they don't have access to. So it does create, as I said before, a class system, right? Where like these people are the Argos class of players, where they have access to these things, and getting to 1385 and 1400 is easier for them. But then we have the other people, the peons, the serfs here, that are sitting around in 1340, 1320, and they're primarily free to play, and they can't really get anything out of it. And I think that's really what the most frustrating thing is that you need those people in the ecosystem of a game in order for it to survive. You can't have a game that just survives on a handful of whales. because soon those whales will die off because they don't have any more krill to eat, which are all the free-to-play players. That's what effectively happens. And so I think it's very unhealthy for the game to create a caste system in this way, and I think the success of Lost Ark in other regions is because that it did not do that. So I think that what Amazon and Smilegate need to do is they need to come at this from two different directions. I think that they probably should buff the honing rates for tier 3 content and not have it have this weird, like, oh, it gets harder, then it gets way easier, then it gets harder again over time. And I think they need to do that like immediately, right? And like the next week's patch. I think also they should come out with an apology or something like that, acknowledging that this was a mistake. Because I think the reason for that is that a lot of times, like, this is the first like post-release content patch that we've gotten. So the first impression that people get of this game is that, wow, I have to spend money and they're releasing content that only people that are 12-hour-a-day players, that are veterans and or whales can get access to. What the fuck is in it for me? And I know you can very easily say that, oh, well, you know, you can just enjoy, you know, playing the, you know, the casual content and just do it as it comes and everything like that. You're not addressing their concerns. You're just telling them that the way that they feel is wrong. And I think that the way that those people feel is not wrong. I think that a lot of people play video games because it is an escape from real life being pay to win. Real life is a, you know, it's a pay to win game. Your parents matter, the school you went to matter, the country you grew up in matters, the amount of money your parents make matters, what you look like matters, how attractive you are, how tall you are, how smart you are. I guess how smart you are also translates over to video games too, but all the other ones kind of don't. And so in a video game, I think that a lot of people view it as to some degree a great equalizer. And whenever you have something that's so just blatantly class dividing, like something like Argos, for example, you really attract a lot of resentment from those people because, as I said, I think a lot of people play video games because it is that even playing field, because it is that place where they don't have to be, you know, have some rich person lording over their power, etc. And I think that's why so many people had so much hope with Lost Ark, and that's why so many people are also very upset about this emotionally because they feel like they've been betrayed and misled. And again, I said they need to solve it with two different things. They need to solve it with an increase to the honing rates, and they also need to solve it with adding in that extra content like the heroic guardian raids and the abyss raids. I think that fundamentally that is a better gameplay experience than expecting people to play multiple alts and then repeat the exact same content over and over and over on an alt that they might not even really care about playing as much as their main, but they feel like they have to so they can funnel resources to their main character. I find this to be a very contrived form of gameplay, and it's something that I don't want to participate in. And if it was up to me and I was playing solo and not spending any money, I would have probably just stopped playing at about 1320 item level or 1340, maybe done some of the collection stuff or the, you know, life skill type stuff, and then I would have just stopped playing the game until they made the game more fun to play and more fair. So I think there's a lot of people in my position, and there's also a lot of people that are in tier 1, tier 2, thinking about playing the game, etc. And they hear the problems that I'm talking about and the problems that other people are talking about, experiences, and they think to themselves, you know what, maybe I might not play this game. Or, you know what, I don't want to invest even more into this game because at the end of the day, this is going to be the position that I'm going to be in because this is what these guys are running into now, and I'm going to run into the same thing in a month. Amazon/Smilegate, I don't care who's at fault. I don't care about arguing, is it Amazon's fault or Smilegate's fault? I don't give a shit. I just want it fixed. I think that whoever is in charge needs to do two things. Number one, increase the honing rates for tier 3. Number 2, make the other content that players have in Korea and in Russia that allows them to get more resources without having to use alts, put those in the game. Put the heroic abyss dungeons in the game. Put the heroic guardians in the game. And put whatever the bridge is in the game too. These things are core to the everyday gameplay loop, and I think they will just make the everyday player's experience better because it will give them more options and more things to do. A lot of times I'll log on, I'll do my chaos dungeons, I'll do my guardians, and then I'll be pretty much out of stuff to do for the day unless I want to go find some random island thing to do or whatever else. I don't think that it's a problem, and I think it would just simply make the game better. There's a lot of people out there that I think agree with me, and I'd hope that Amazon can get this message as soon as possible before the game starts attracting an even worse reputation. I think that every single day that this is an issue, it will be bleeding players, bleeding respect, bleeding integrity, and the faster that they come out to stop it, the faster they stem that bleeding and actually start healing that wound, and we can actually start having a better game. So that's pretty much all I've got. It's been a really big problem, I think, and I think also for a lot of people it is true that this is mainly a perceptual problem. This is something that only affects 1% of the player base. However, I think that it is demoralizing for a lot of the player base as well, and it makes them not want to continue in the game because they know where it ultimately leads. And I think that's a very big point of investment with MMOs, and that is why I think it needs to be solved immediately. Because you don't want to have people get demoralized and think, what's the point? I'm not going to whale. I'm never going to get there. Hopefully some people from Amazon or Smilegate see this, and we can start seeing the game actually improve.